What up? It's your boy Q, and I'm back on my shit again. Now, I know it's been a while, and this isn't my typical video, but at this point, what really is? But today I thought I'd talk about Zenless Zone Zero. The game itself offers some pretty solid combat, and just introduced a brand new role itself in 2.0, known as the Rupture specialty. Initially, I had some reservations to a new role being introduced to Zenless Zone Zero, but it wasn't so much for the Rupture role itself, but for the fact that this game has had a role that has been largely neglected since the first day of its conception. Yes, today we are talking about the infamous defense role, or specialty if you want to call it that. Without wasting any time beating on a dead horse, we all know how the defense role is, and we all know that it's nothing special at all. The role seems to want to focus on being able to buff the team, but also being able to create stun opportunities, but also trying to be DPS itself. But in the merge of trying to be all three of these things, it doesn't specialize in either one. And in a game where you can choose 3 characters, you might as well choose 3 characters that can focus on those 3 things, rather than one who tries to do all of them and doesn't really do a great job at any of them. Now, as many before me have said, this isn't a critique on defense being weak or unviable in the game. We all know those beautiful DPS Ben videos that exist out there. But my point is, it feels strange that for it being its own identity, the role itself doesn't bring anything unique or interesting for the player to play around with in the game. And this feels like it's the case because defense doesn't really have anything that it's clinging to. It seems like it wants to make you ignore the defensive mechanics of the game, but this isn't a game where the defensive mechanics are amazing, that being defensive assist and dodge. So my suggestion is, instead of trying to make a role that encourages you to ignore the defensive mechanics of the game, why not make the role further push you to have incentive to play around with those strong defensive mechanics that already exist? I mean, the game literally has 2 whole tabs dedicated to leveling up these skills. Yet if you look at every single character guide, they're the last to get leveled up, if at all. The goal should be to play around ZZZ's incredibly strong defensive mechanics, not create an archetype that essentially tries to ignore them. So now at this point in the video, I'm going to just be spitballing some ideas on how we can change agents, W engines, and even disk drives that revolve around the defensive role to help fit this idea that we are presenting here. So, first let's start with the OG himself, Mr. Ben Big. So, Ben. Good old Ben. The first defense character in the entire game. And how does he go about representing this role? By just being another DPS. Okay, this is fine, I guess. Ignoring the fact that this makes 3 of the 5 initial roles of the game focused on DPS, soon to be 6, Ben has made a name for himself amongst the players who love him for what he does. So, I want to keep his damage dealing focus intact, but just give it a couple tweaks to make it feel more evenly split amongst his kit. Every time Ben successfully blocks an attack with his EX special attack, or his defensive assist, it'll generate a stack for Ben that we'll just call a building up stack for now. We'll say he can have about 8 of these stacks that'll refresh the timer whenever he gets a new one. Then, the next time Ben goes to use his EX special follow-up attack, his assist follow-up attack, or his ultimate, it'll empower it based off of his defense, just like his old effect did, but also based off of how many stacks of building up he has, consuming them in the process. His additional ability could even fall in line with this, making it so that instead of it being based off of this shield that's smaller than my highest viewed video, every time the team successfully uses a defensive assist, it'll give a small amount of crit rate, maybe like 4% or something, that'll also permanently build up over more uses. Probably capping out around 40% since some of these bosses could farm this ability pretty easily, admittedly. So I'm no game dev, maybe 300% of Ben's defense stacking over and over again might be a little too high, so maybe you might have to knock that number down a little bit. But overall, I hope that Ben fans would be more satisfied with the idea of a massive explosion that can come after building it up over and over again, hence the whole construction theme, to help make up for the loss in initial damage that they might have had from Ben's old kit. The goal is to keep Ben's honestly impressive DPS capabilities, but instead focus it now into one massive hit through either his EX special follow-up attack or ultimate. Hopefully this still keeps the identity amongst the true Ben loyalists. Again, this number might be too high, I don't know, I'm not a dev, so if you need to knock it down to make it a little bit more level with other A-rank agents, then sure. But my counter argument is that Nicole exists and she gets to be the best support in the game, so, let these characters cook. Speaking of cooking, let's not jump the gun yet. Next character up is Seth. So Seth. Yeah, I have no idea how this character works. I mean, yeah, I've read his kit, and I get the idea is that he's supposed to be a sort of anomaly support. Again, not a defense character. And his M6 even reminds me of Darker Days in a game that will not be named. But, once again, we have another character that doesn't seem to play into the defensive mechanics of the game. So let's fix that. But he's still a cop at the end of the day, so I'm not losing any sleep over this dude. His EX special seems like a neat place to tackle. Specifically this final little pose he hits at the end of his held version. As much as I don't like this dude, I can't lie, he be hitting it. During it though, he holds up his shield as if he's getting ready to block an incoming attack. So, what if we make it so that when he lands the final hit of his EX special, it will trigger a quick assist. But unlike the one he can trigger during his charged basic attack, this one leaves him on the field, hitting the pose of course, and ready to defend against the next enemy's attack for as long as he has resolve. It could even have a little ring on the field to indicate the area where Seth is protecting. If they do attack him, it will automatically trigger his defensive assist Thunder Shield, applying the daze it normally would as well as giving Seth 25% resolve. I think this idea is super cool as I don't ever see a reason for using his held raw EX special otherwise. It doesn't really seem to do enough damage to warrant the amount of time it takes, but with this new way to use his resolve, it opens up a new avenue for characters like Jane and Corrin to complete their long animations without being interrupted. Yeah, it's like a mini Caesar at home, but not all of us have Caesar, and she's not always the best choice for teams that take advantage of Seth's other strengths. And who knows, maybe this might even give the devs less incentive to make characters who are completely invincible throughout their entire on-field attack strings. Speaking of being completely invincible for long periods of time, initially, upon perusing Caesar's kit, my proposal with the Overlord of the Fair Outer Rings was rather simple in actuality. Instead of her chain attack along with her ultimate and her EX special attack, it would instead be her defensive assist that would be the third way to generate her Radiant Aegis shield. To top this idea off with a fine inquisition, if we divide her shield into 3 sections that increase the attack buff it provides, based off of how damaged the shield was, it would feel more befitting to that of the Overlord's character. Trying to revitalize a kit such as the Fair Overlord's comes with its own, assortment of challenges along the way, due to her ignorance of the rule's goals. But then, upon scouring her ultimate yet again, one began to contemplate to oneself. Screw that. This is a buckler. Shoot, even further, this is a damn tire. So why is it providing a stronger shield than both of these guys? She's chucking this damn thing after her opponent's half of the fight anyway. So, using the section of her ultimate that practically nobody really takes advantage of, let's really talk about Caesar.
Only the brave will think. That's me!
Hopping right into it, let's take a look at the core passive again. Overall, I like the idea I said before, but now I want to flip it. Instead, the higher the shield's durability is, the stronger the buff it applies to the team. But there's a trade-off now. Once you activate the Radiant Aegis shield, its durability immediately begins to dwindle down, acting as a self-timer before it completely depletes itself. This might sound all bad, but there's one additional way to keep Caesar's buff up more consistently. Every time she successfully uses her regular special attack to perform a perfect block, if she has an available assist point, she will consume it to upgrade this ability into its EX version, granting the team the Radiant Aegis shield. Now, to the 2 people who own Caesar's Mindscape 4, this may sound familiar. I always thought this concept of her being able to use her assist points outside of using perfect assist, and this one move I guess, was super intriguing. However, with the uptime of her current shield and the low cost of her EX special, I genuinely don't see how this incredibly expensive Mindscape ever seen any use. But moving on, let's talk about her new EX special attack. Now, after successfully blocking with her parry counter, Caesar has 2 routes she can take. Route 1 is continuing back into her basic attack string, carrying on from where she left off. Route 2, however, is using her overpowered shield bash, which now would consume the Radiant Aegis shield to do a massive burst of daze to the enemy. Now here's where things get fun. If the enemy is shielded, not unlike the massive shield that's been getting put on every new boss as of late. Then upon hitting them, Caesar will deal even more daze, as well as deal damage to the shield equal to 25% of its total durability. That's right, Caesar is the shield buster character. Like I said, this part of her ultimate is super cool, but I feel like it should not only be better, but just incorporate it more into her overall kit. Speaking of the ultimate, it's the same deal as the overpowered shield bash, except instead of doing a measly 25% of the shield's durability, it does 50. Little Lucia's
Little Lucia.
Can't you give me 3 samples to a pretty lady?
Sure. You know one?
That's really it for Caesar though. I love the idea of this character personally getting offended that you'd bring a shield to a fight, then proceed to bash the hell out of it with her own shield. Seems like the perfect kind of irony befitting the true overlord of the Outer Ring. Alright, now it's time to cook. Ever since I started playing ZZZ all the way back in the closed beta, I was always so weirded out about just how rather lackluster the ultimate abilities are in this game. I mean, I come from a background where I've played games that have anything from throwing sharks at people to literally freezing time and delivering back shots to your opponents. And these games were PvP. So coming into ZZZ, where characters' ultimates range from flashier EX specials to the one cool ultimate that lets you use discount versions of other characters' ultimates more, it was quite the disappointing jump. So I want to fix that using Pan Yin-Hu here. Just like his ultimate now, it'll provide a decent burst of initial healing since I don't think healing is innately boring. However, where things get different is instead of providing this lackluster healing over time like he does now, Pan would instead leave behind 3 dumplings on the field. He also could leave one behind with his chain attack too. These dumplings can be picked up by any on-field agent, similar to how you'd pick up these things left behind by Avakabu or Miss Esme, and it would heal the agent for a portion of their HP. But if that agent is already at max HP, it will instead provide them with temporary hit points. Finally, these dumplings will provide an attack buff to the agent based off of Pan's max HP, as well as the on-field character's max HP, so long as his additional ability is activated. Speaking of, can we not get these additional abilities that only activate with 2 characters in the entire game in the future? Okay, thanks Oya. But the purpose of this is to try and open up Pan's kit so that he doesn't just work with literally only Yizhuan, and other Rupture characters if you're willing to give up 2 team slots for just 1 ability. So, now we can scrap this god-awfully designed core passive in favor for something that can be more widely accessible to other characters as well. When Pan applies the depleted chi effect from Touch of Death, it will now instead increase the amount of damage and daze the target takes from defensive assists, stacking up to 3 times since, he has 3 stacks on it for some reason. The idea of a stun supporting aspect in the game sounds really cool to me, and since we're taking Pan away from his mommy milkers and exposing him to the rest of the world, why not make him the candidate to do it? Obviously, you'd have to change around his mindscapes as well, since they all play around his depleted chi and old core passive effect. Probably just making them so that he can drop more dumplings when he ults and increasing the amount of daze dealt when depleted chi is applied would do the trick. But I also wouldn't be opposed to giving him something else that'd make him a more viable physical support since, he's a physical character and physical characters can't seem to get their own dedicated support for some reason. So slapping on some kind of physical damage buff would also do the trick too. But that's it for the 4 horsemen of the dying role, known as the defense role. Next, I want to talk about something a lot simpler, but just as important to help defense feel like a fully functional role. Yes, I know I'm already pushing my luck with this video being well over 10 minutes, but this last section will be quick, so just hear me out.
Hello and welcome.
So, W engines. As lackluster as they all are, there's really only 2 that I kind of want to tackle here, and that's Original Transmorpher and Bunny Band. I literally just want to swap their main stats around. This might seem weird, but I feel like this makes Starlight Knight Flying Kick have a defense percentage to better synergize with Ben, since it already is more stun focused anyway, while still keeping it a solid enough free-to-play option for Caesar. This also makes Pet the Bunny be more focused on giving an overwhelming amount of HP percentage to make it a solid option for those who don't have Pan Yin-Hu's signature W engine, as well as being able to even be used by Yizhuan as a stat stick, or even other characters that want to potentially take better advantage of Pan Yin-Hu's core passive. Okay, if I'm being honest, I really just want to do this so I could put Pet the Bunny on Alice. I mean, it's a cute little bunny. Let me put it on my cute little bunny girl. Finally, we gotta talk about the biggest elephant in the room. The disk drive set, Soul Rock. Now, since day one, I don't think anybody has used more than the 2-piece passive of this effect, and that's why we're not going to change that one at all. But instead, we're going to tackle this absolutely horrible 4-piece set bonus. And now, instead of doing nothing, upon receiving damage, and just receiving damage, you no longer have to lose HP in order for the effect to happen. The equipper gains a damage buff of 1% for every 1,000 points of shielding they currently possess. This hopefully not only makes this set more usable by all of the characters in the defense role, as they all provide some form of shielding, but also simultaneously makes the disk drive a nice compatible set to use with the 2-piece effect of Protopunk as well. Not to mention, again, making the set actually usable. And that's really it. This was just meant to be a quick little video to throw out some little changes that I think would overall make the game a lot more interesting. But yeah, I don't know. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Maybe there's something I'm overlooking. Maybe these changes are way too drastic for where the game currently sits right now. I don't know. I'm interested to hear your guys' thoughts, as I'm sure the devs will never get back to it anyway. Thanks for watching. Oh, you're still here. Then I suppose you're expecting another lightning round like I did in my last video, huh? No, not this time. Although, there is one character that I thought would be really cool if they ever did make it into the game, specifically as a defense character. Alright, fine. You've convinced me. It's lightning round time, baby. Featuring... Bet you didn't expect that, did you? Casa would be an A-rank fire defense Sons of Caledon character to help round out the roster nicely. Casa doesn't have access to a traditional defensive or evasive assist. Instead, Casa further enhances the abilities of her teammates' defensive and evasive assist. She does this by either increasing the amount of days a defensive assist does, or increasing how long Vital View lasts for an evasive assist. If a tag is initiated to bring her in while an enemy is attacking, it will instead prioritize the other teammate, performing their defensive or evasive assist instead, similar to Astra Yao. Casa would have an extremely long basic attack string, something around 7 attacks in total. After successfully landing her 3rd, 5th, and 7th basic attack, she'll provide additional bonuses to her buffs that she provides for the evasive assist and defensive assist of her teammates, as well as providing an assist point for the team. Her EX special attack grants these same buffs immediately instead of having to get through her basic attack string. Her ultimate ability, which we'll call Bravery, puts her in a temporary state of unflinching, allowing her to continue making actions despite taking hits. Her health cannot drop below 1 in this state, however, she will still take full damage, similar to Lucia. Since she's an A rank, this is where we could throw in some Mindscapes to maybe reduce how much damage she takes during this state, as well as maybe even inflicting some of the damage that she takes back at her enemies when she takes it. By default, we'll say she can take about 10 hits before this state disappears. However, after unlocking her M6, the amount of hits taken increases by 5 for each successful perfect assist triggered by her allies. We can even get crazy and say she could take up to 30 hits in it once she has max stacks. The idea for the ultimate was largely inspired by the cutscene that we see during the Tour de Inferno part of the main story. I kinda love how she just stands up to Moors here and doesn't flinch a muscle. It's pretty badass. Her additional ability can only be procced by either another fire character or another character from the defense role. And what this additional ability does is grants all teammates additional critical damage on top of anomaly buildup rate, a more general buff to help balance out the specialized things about her kit. Now, if any of these abilities sound familiar, it's probably because you play Hollow Zero just as much as I do. All I did was take a bunch of the Resonium that could be found in there and make it into a character. A simplified idea as a whole, but I think that it goes to show that everything needed to make a new character that falls within the defense role nicely is already programmed right there in the game. It's just a matter of putting it to use. Whew! Okay, I think that's everything. You made it all the way through this 20-something minute long video. Or more like I did. I mean, I started speedrunning at the end if you couldn't tell. But anyway, I'm off to watch Dwarf Rant's new video. Wonder what the topic is gonna be about. Ah, shit.
Use your mind, use your mind, use your mind. Oh, lose your mind, lose your mind, lose your mind. Use your mind, use your mind, use your mind. Oh, lose your mind.